What's going on, guys? I've been meaning to talk about the NBA for a long time on my channel. For those of you that don't know, I'm a huge basketball fan, huge Washington Wizards fan. So the draft this past week was huge for me as a fan. Just seeing what the Wizards did and how they're laying a new foundation to, kind of get things going for the future, and hopefully we won't be, terrible going forward. This took them about 5 years too long to start rebuilding. They hung on to Bradley Beal for way too long, signed him to a really long, huge money deal, also with a no trade clause. So that really destroyed us. But that front office isn't around anymore. So I think hopefully we're moving in a much better direction now. But yeah, let's get into it. I just wanted to talk about the draft, kind of some of my thoughts. I think to start, a lot of people were saying this draft is like the worst draft they've seen in, I don't know, how long. They're saying since like 2013 draft. But I just think that that's kind of like nonsense. Like, I don't really understand why that is, the talking point here. I mean, sure, there's plenty of people that people aren't familiar with in this draft. I think mainly because a lot of them are from overseas or they didn't play in college. They went to the G League, they went to some other professional league. But, that's just kind of the direction the league's going in. I don't really think that states whether or not this is a good or bad draft. I think we could look back, 5 to 10 years from now, and a lot of these guys are going to be very solid NBA players. I think some of them are going to be all-stars. It just depends who it's going to be. If it's going to be at the top of the draft, it's going to be the middle of the draft, it's going to be the bottom of the draft. You never know who's going to pan out after draft night. So, starting at number one, the Hawks taking Zachary Risachet. Hope I said that right. I don't think this is a bad pick, like everyone's saying. Like, everyone's been saying that Sarr is definitely the best prospect in the draft, which I agree with, which is also why I'm very happy to be a Wizards fan right now, because I feel like we got the number one pick, despite not being picking at number one. So I think Zachary Risachet could be good. I think the reason the Hawks draft him is just because his body just fits like that NBA prototype of, kind of the age of the league that we're coming into right now, where everybody's looking for dynamic wings that can play multiple positions. Zachary Risachet is 6'9", 195. He had a really good breakout performance, I believe, in, the French league that he was playing in, going into the playoffs. I think he dropped like 28 points. And that's when I really noticed him being projected above Sarr, and then he kind of started to be that number one prospect across pretty much everyone's boards. And maybe I shouldn't say number one prospect. I should say he was just speculated to go number one, and that was a pretty, consensus opinion amongst, pretty much every mock draft I was reading going into draft night. So I think he's going to be good. I just think it's going to be a long process. I don't think he's really going to make an impact for a couple years. And I think that's the case with a lot of players in this draft, but to go number one and not really have an immediate impact, I think a lot of people are going to, kind of throw shade his way, but I don't think you can expect someone to just come in the league immediately and just start dominating, especially with the Hawks. Like, they have more talent than the typical team in the lottery. I mean, the Hawks went from, I want to say, 10th worst odds to win the lottery to winning it. So, they're going to have a little bit more talent. And, granted, they just traded DeJounte Murray. I believe they got back Dyson Daniels and Larry Nance Jr. So, Dyson Daniels might take up time from Risachet, to start up. There might be some other players on the roster that kind of, are going to need minutes. So we'll see what pans out. I don't think he's going to win Rookie of the Year. I think Sarr has the best odds right now to win Rookie of the Year. I think Sarr, Reed Shepherd, and, probably Stephon Castle. I think the top, 4 dudes in the draft are probably the ones that are competing for Rookie of the Year. So going to number 2, my team, DC family. They went with who I believe, like I said, is the best prospect in the draft, Alex Sarr, also out of France. Sarr's just got, the tools to be really good in the league. I think he's 7 feet tall. He's like 225. He's going to a team that doesn't have a lot of, star power, if any. I wouldn't call Kuzma a star. I wouldn't call Jordan Poole a star right now. So I think he's going to have a lot of opportunity to grow and develop. I like the fact that, we also have Bilal Koulibaly on the team now, who's got a year under his belt. He's also from France, so I think just having people that are in a similar situation to you, where they can kind of walk you through the process of your rookie year and stuff like that, I think that's really helpful. So I'm really glad that we have Bilal on the team for Sarr. And then going off that, we also made some pretty big trades to collect more, players in the draft. The biggest one, obviously, trading away Denny Avdia for the 14th overall pick, which later became Bub Carrington out of Pittsburgh. We traded Denny. We got the pick in this week's draft. We also got a 2029 pick, and I believe maybe one more second rounder. And then we also got Malcolm Brogdon, who's on an expiring deal. Older player, veteran in the league, formerly was Rookie of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think on a team where you really don't have any veterans, and the fact that we just drafted 3 dudes who are basically, 19 to 21 years old, you need someone who's a little bit older, someone who has experience in the league. And I get, Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma, both NBA champions. They have experience, but they're still relatively young. I think you need a dude who's over 30 years old, like Brogdon, who's been in multiple different organizations at this point, to kind of get guys who are going into their rookie year, understanding how to move about the league, how to, handle your business in the league, how to really do things the right way. So I think he's a great player to add, despite that he's on an expiring deal. Maybe he'll stick around. It's probably more likely than not that he's not going to. But nonetheless, I like the move. Houston at 3, taking Reed Shepherd. That was that was also a pretty majority opinion on most of the mocks that I saw. I think that's a good pick. I think he fits. He's a good 3-point shooter. That's probably his best attribute. But he's quick. He's athletic. He's going to be a good player in the NBA. And, I think, honestly, Reed Shepherd probably had potential to go number 1 as well. I thought that might have been a good pick for Atlanta to make. But, they're rolling with Reece Shea. Number 4, Stephon Castle. That was probably one of my favorite picks of the draft, honestly. I love UConn, and I think UConn just produces really good players. I think UConn is turning into one of those pro prospect breeding grounds, kind of like how Kentucky was, and still is to an extent. Duke, I think UConn is starting to be in that conversation where they really are having a lot of prospects come out. Maybe not every year, but they're keeping their name populated in the draft for sure. So I think Stephon Castle is going to be really good for the Spurs. I think pairing him with Victor Wembanyama is going to be crazy, because Stephon Castle's a big guard, so you're just adding size at every position now. So if you have Stephon Castle basically running the 1 or the 2, he's really gonna bully smaller guards, dude. He's got good size. He's 210. He's young. He's just not a great shooter, but I think that's gonna improve. He's gonna be working on his game all the time now. The Spurs don't play around when it comes to player development, so that's gonna be a really, really good fit in my opinion. We got Ron Holland II going 5 to the Pistons, and I can't decide whether or not I think this is a good pick or not. I think my issue here is, I love the NBA draft. So I've been looking at mock drafts, since the season started in October. And I want to say from like October through November, Ron Holland was like the consensus number one pick. Like everyone thought Ron Holland was going to go number one overall. And, you know, Sarr and Reece Shea, I don't even think we're like there yet. I think they were like probably like top 5, maybe top 10, but it wasn't like molded out like this yet. And then all the latest mocks I saw going into draft night had Ron Holland going like 9 to Memphis, you know, 10 to the Jazz. You know, it was pretty uncertain where he was going to fall. So the fact that he went number 5, I think that was probably the highest he was going to go. And I just, you know, I don't really know what the Pistons are doing. I mean, I feel like they made this pick last year when they picked Asar Thompson. You know, I feel like they're fairly similar players. Hopefully they're, you know, thinking that maybe Ron Holland's going to be more of a offensive presence than Asar is. You know, I think both of them are clearly very young, so they're going to develop. But, you know, I don't really think Detroit has a game plan. But, you know, we'll see how that goes. The Hornets, I have no idea who this guy is that they picked. I'm not even going to lie to you. I like literally have no clue who this is. Another guy from France. Clearly there's something in the water over in France because all these dudes are just like 6'9" plus and, you know, balling. I don't know what's going on, but I don't really know what's going on with the Hornets either. You know, I don't think they have a game plan, but, you know, I hope this works out for them because they're just like in a perpetual like rebuild stage, and they're not getting high enough picks where it's like making a real difference. You know, LaMelo was clearly like the best pick that they've done in, I don't know, years. But they don't really pick that high in the draft. So I'm like, you either gotta like really like blow it up or like find some free agents and try to like make a playoff spot, you know, make the play in. But, you know, that's not really successful for like mid-market teams in the NBA anymore. Number 7, Donovan Clingan to the Portland Trailblazers. Very happy about that. You know, fellow Connecticut boy like myself. You know, he really is just, I think he's going to be really good in the league. He was ranked as the number 1 center in the draft. So I guess they have, you know, Sarr at the power forward. But I'm not really sure. But Clingan is definitely, you know, going to be a good player in the league. I think he's just going to be what he was in college. I think he's going to have easy buckets around the rim. I think he's going to be a great interior presence defensively. And he's really going to be like an anchor in the paint for whatever team he plays for, whether that's the Blazers for, you know, years to come or if he goes somewhere else. I think he's going to be a very, very good, solid NBA player. The craziest thing that happened on draft night was the Spurs taking Rob Dillingham, which I thought was a great pick for the Spurs, and then trading it to Minnesota for a pick that's in, or maybe it was 2 picks, that are in like 2030. So I don't know what the goal is there. That was like, frankly, I think the Timberwolves fleeced the Spurs on that trade. That makes no sense to me. You add Stephon Castle and Rob Dillingham, and you have Victor Wembanyama. Like, that is an amazing young core. But they just gave it away. I don't know. I thought Rob Dillingham should have gone higher than 8 as well. You know, I was honestly hoping that if the Wizards didn't take Sarr, the only other players I would have wanted them to take would have been Rob Dillingham, and probably Donovan Clingan. I don't think I really would have wanted them to take anybody else. So number 8, you know, getting traded to, you know, Minnesota. That was a surprise. Number 9, also a surprise, with the Grizzlies taking Zach Edey at number 9. I'm not mad at this pick because unlike most people, I do think Zach Edey is going to have a very good NBA career. I think he's going to continue to improve, and I think he's just, you like they always say, you can't teach 7'4", and it'd be one thing if he was 7'4" and like 200 pounds. The man is 7'4" and 300 pounds. So no one's moving this dude in the paint. Like, you know, like take a guy like Kendrick Perkins, for example, right? Like Kendrick Perkins was a solid NBA player. And I think it was mainly in part due to the fact because he was just like a huge dude. Like he was 6'11", and like just a large man, right? So he was able to kind of bully people, and that was his game, right? Both offensively and defensively. So I think Zach Edey's going to be better than that, but he has that kind of same MO. He just needs to really learn how to kind of play the game and work through it and do what he has to do. And then Coley Williams at 10. This is also a great pick. I mean, I just think dudes that have relatives that played in the league, especially ones that are currently playing in the league, I feel like they have this competitive edge, and it's just like they're gonna have a high floor regardless, in my opinion. And I think that changes for some people. Some people are gonna say, "Oh, Bronny James, this, that, whatever," right? But Jalen Williams and Cody Williams have very similar body types. They have fairly similar games. I think Cody Williams is going to be better defensively, but I think he's going to be a good player. So getting him at 10, I think that's a good pick. Modest Buzelis at 11. I think that's great. Love to see hometown kid go to his hometown team. That must be an amazing feeling for Modest. So excited for him. I think he's going to be good. A lot of people think that he's going to be really bad, but I don't think he's going to be bad. But I guess we'll find out. Nikola Topic going 12. He was projected to go like top 5, but he slipped because of torn ACL, I believe. Devin Carter to the Kings at 13. I think that's solid. His father, Anthony Carter, played in the league for a while. And then number 14, Bub Carrington. I am so excited about this pick because it has been a long time since we've drafted like a really good guard. In terms of, when I say good guard, like a guard that has the skills and the size to like maintain a good career in the NBA. And I think Bub Carrington is that pick. The last few picks that we've made in the kind of like 8 to 14 range over the past few years have been forwards. Mainly 4s. We picked Rui, we picked Denny. We picked Johnny Davis. Johnny Davis is, I don't know what's going on with him though, but I think Bub Carrington's going to pan out. I think Bub Carrington's going to be a good pick. He's from Baltimore, so I really do think like this is going to be a great situation for him. I could see him being on this team for years to come and really building out his name in DC, so I'm very excited about that. I'm really hoping that he does what he's supposed to do. Other thoughts on the draft, though. I mean, I think everybody's kind of hating on the fact that Bronny got picked. I don't get it. I can understand why everyone's pointing the fingers to be like, oh, he wouldn't have got drafted if he wasn't LeBron James' son, blah, 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 yada, yada, whatever. On some level, I agree. I don't know if he would have gotten drafted if he wasn't LeBron James' son. But I do think, regardless of whether or not he got drafted, where he gets drafted, I do think he is going to be a solid NBA role player. I don't think he's the type of guy where he's going to come in and demand that he be a star, because I think he understands what's going on. And I think he's a grateful guy. I mean, like, the dude went into cardiac arrest, like, early into his college career, and you didn't know if he was going to play again. I think he's just happy for the fact that he's going to be able to play basketball on the next level. And he gets to be a part of history as well. He's playing with his dad, pending that LeBron James resigns, but I think there's a 99.999% chance that he resigns. I just think people are being a little too hard on Bronny, and I don't think this is all something that he dictated. I think there's other people here that probably dictated. I mean, LeBron's been the one saying that he wants to play with Bronny for years now. So the fact that the Lakers drafted Bronny is probably more about LeBron than it is Bronny, which, sure, maybe that's why people are pointing the fingers about nepotism. But, LeBron James is still a great player in this league. If LeBron James says he wants you to draft this guy, late in the second round, you're going to do it, whether or not it's Bronny James or not. So, I don't really get it. I think Bronny's going to be a good player. I do think the comparisons that he gave out, of trying to, kind of emulate Drew Holiday's career, Miles McBride, I think those are really good comparisons. I think he fits like the Miles McBride type of role. So I think that could totally be what his, career trajectory is to kind of be that guy that picks up 94 feet, plays really tough defense, gets steals, and makes open shots. That's really all you can ask. And if that's what you can do, you can be a good role player on any team in the league. You're gonna get a contract from somebody. So I also think having him with another rookie like Dalton Connect, like that's gonna be good for Bronny. Bronny's probably gonna spend a lot of time in the G League, but I don't think he's focused on impacting winning right away. I think it's about him developing and learning how to be an NBA player and play in the league. Another crazy thing that happened on draft night, or I guess the 2 days where the draft occurred, was this whole story about Kyle Filipowski. I've never heard something quite like this come up in the NBA in my time following it, over the last, 10, 15 years. But this whole situation with Kyle Filipowski is absolutely crazy. So for those of you who don't know, I guess there was this story that broke out about Kyle Filipowski having this much older girlfriend. And as they started to delve deeper into this story, they started finding out that apparently she is basically, she's in it for the money. That's kind of what the theory is. But the interior to that discussion is so interesting because there was this instance where I guess his family was tweeting and saying that Kyle hasn't talked to his family in years and that this girl is using quote unquote Mormon grooming and brainwashing tactics to, basically control Kyle Filipowski. The whole thing sounds pretty crazy, but the irony in all of it is that he slipped in the draft because of this, winds up getting taken with the second pick in the second round, which was made none other by the Utah Jazz. So I think it's pretty funny that they're talking about all these Mormon brainwashing techniques. I don't even know if this girl is Mormon. I really am. The story is quite, Swiss cheesy, if you will. There's a lot of missing pieces, and I don't really know what's going on. But that was probably one of the most interesting stories I heard on draft night. So I think, frankly, whatever's going on about him, I think he's going to be a really good NBA player. Dude's 7 feet tall, 230, out of Duke. Like I was saying earlier, Duke's one of those schools where, they just produce good pros. And I think Kyle Filipowski has all the tools to be a good pro, regardless of, him going to Duke. So I think he's going to be a good player. I think that's a pretty good pick for the Jazz. So, yeah, all in all, I'm happy with what the Wizards did. That's where my allegiance lies. I think the one Wizards pick I didn't speak about was Keyshawn George out of the University of Miami. I believe he's originally from Switzerland, but he's a big wing. I think they're calling him a shooting guard right now, but he's like 6'7", 210. He's got a good shot. He's got good overall skills. I believe he had like a big growth spurt, so he's still kind of getting used to his body. So I think this pick is kind of just based on potential. But being the Wizards and not having a whole lot of talent on the team, a whole lot of young talent on the team, I think this makes a lot of sense. You kind of want to see if this guy's going to pan out. You're going to give him time to play. He's a first-round pick, so I'm not mad at the pick. It's just going to be one of those things, see if it pans out. And if it doesn't, whatever, it was a late first-round pick. If it does, high risk, high reward. So, those are kind of my thoughts on the draft. I'm looking forward to Summer League and seeing, these dudes, lace up and play against each other. I'm really excited to see Risa Shea play against Alex Sarr. I think it's going to be a really good matchup. And I think Sarr's going to show out. So I'm happy to be a Wizards fan today. I'm looking forward to the season coming in October, and it's going to be great. So if you guys like this video, give me a like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what kind of things you guys are interested in hearing about from an NBA perspective. I'm looking to do more of these videos in the future and kind of just give my thoughts on the league. So